Welcome back everyone to A Dreams of Father, Cobra Kai Season 6 Watch Party. With the final season on the horizon, fans are naturally wondering the big question. What's with the conspiracy to convince people that New York pizza isn't god-awful? Is Peyton List ever going to be in another show that's actually good? How will Cobra Kai finally end? Yeah, that's definitely a question that's been around since the beginning, but has taken on new importance since the announcement that Season 6 will be the last. Now, I covered some of this in my recent video on the episode count. We know there's going to be 15 episodes, and I strongly suspect it'll be split into two. Probably 10 episodes in part 1 and 5 episodes in part 2. Netflix has done that for the final seasons before and has had a lot of success with part 1 and part 2 format. So when I'm talking about the ending of season 6, I'm referring to what would be the part 2 of the release. It would span at least a few episodes and have the feel of the second half of the season. Every season has had a dramatic midpoint and could be divided into two. I think that'll happen again, though the dividing point may not be exactly the middle. Either way, those details are mostly irrelevant to this theory. What is relevant is what happens early on in the season. Now, we pretty much know the Sakai Taikai will be the big tournament of Season 6. We've had the All-Valley Under-18 Karate Tournament twice. Now Cobra Kai goes global. For the purposes here, I'm going to assume the tournament happens to be before the final episode. It's the big climax of Part 1. That would involve whatever competition they have, as well as Julie Pierce and Sensei Kim Da-Eun. So then what happens next? What is the big finish of Part 2? Well, first off, I think Kreese will still be there, and that is a good time for Silver to re-emerge. However, those are storylines for another time. Right now, let's focus on another almost unresolved plot thread. What does Miguel actually see in Sam? Oh, no. But it is about Miguel. What about Miguel's dad? Hector the Salazar has been in the background for most of the series until finally emerging at the beginning of Season 5. Except in reality, not a whole lot happened. As a refresher, here was the story. Hector is a really bad man. Hector is a nice family man. Hector is a really bad man. That's it. The whole thing was over as soon as it got started. Miguel took off and never even revealed himself. That could be all there is, maybe. But boy, is the door wide open for more. It's not so wide that it could fit Mindy Kaling's ego, but it's big, that's what we can say. So where do we go with all this? I'm glad you asked. As you recall, we learned back in Season 5 that Miguel's dad is big on the fight scene. He knows everyone at the arena and also keeps tabs on upcoming fighters around the world.
Karate. I won a championship back home.
A champion in California? Wow. I'm surprised I never heard of you.
It's a short line, but we learn a lot. Hector the Salazar is into fighting. He clearly follows the up-and-coming competitors everywhere. Who will be the next big thing? It's quite possible he travels around the world to watch these fights. Maybe he does some wagering as well. It's clear after he got out of the bad stuff, this is the sort of thing he does now. So it stands to reason the biggest karate tournament in the world is definitely on his radar. Well, now does that mean Hector the Salazar would be in the stands watching? Probably not. However, if Miguel or their dojo wins the whole tournament, they would be very famous. You remember how the winners do commercials and get all sorts of other celebrity? The fame and notoriety is what Devin was chasing.
I don't think we're getting paid. Not directly, but we're gonna be Insta famous. Gonna get me one of those branded partnerships.
Exactly who would they be famous to? The sort of people who are following the worldwide martial arts scene. The sort of man who wants to find the next big thing in fighting. Exactly. After Miguel's win, Hector the Salazar will learn who he truly is. Maybe he'll even be on TV with his mom and grandma. The jig is up. Everything will make sense. He'll understand why Carmen left so long ago and why a curious boy showed up that he could get along with so well. This is now in the beginning of part 2 of the season. The thrill and excitement of the win turns dark and dangerous. It's the perfect setup for the final run of the series. That great win from part 1 now has a different meaning. An enraged Hector leaves for LA. Does he call in some old friends? Friends who could help? Friends who are also very bad men? We have one side, Miguel, Johnny, and everyone in the valley. Then we have an opposition. There's two sides and one of them is looking to settle a score. How does it play out? It could almost take on a stalker-like feel. While Johnny and Carmen are preparing for the wedding, with the baby on the way, Hector is slowly tracking their moves. He figures out who is who and where they are. Maybe he stops by the dojo. Maybe he spies on Carmen going to work at the hospital. At that point, he sees she's pregnant. He finds Johnny. Now it's even bigger. Johnny took his wife. Perhaps he stages a run-in with Johnny. Remember, Johnny never actually met Hector the Salazar, so there's no recognition. Hector feigns being a lost tourist and learns all about him. Upon learning that Johnny has become a sort of father figure to Miguel, that is when trouble really brews. Johnny has completely taken Hector's place. Hector never had a chance to be a father, and now Johnny has his wife and is raising his son. He would channel that into a rage at Johnny. It's not Johnny's fault, of course, but Hector's far from rational here. Johnny took over what was his. That's what he cares about. It all comes to a head at a big event. Maybe it's the wedding. Hector is not going to let that go on. He needs to make it right, at least in his head. There is a big fight. Everyone is involved. The legacy characters, the new characters, everyone. It leads to a showdown between Johnny and Hector. Amidst the major brawl and epic fight, retired army captain and karate sensei John Kreese emerges from the shadows to fight and protect the closest he ever had to his son. Now is the time to show your enemy no mercy, no matter the cost. In the end, Johnny wins with the help of Kreese and Daniel and everyone else. The ending evokes danger, suspense, intrigue, and a lot of action, all against the backdrop of the Sakai Taikai victory. A wedding and a coming baby. It brings all the characters together and erupts in a major karate brawl. It gives Johnny a chance to shine on the climax while still having plenty of potential for Miguel, Robbie, and Daniel as well. Amidst the final triumph, a bonding moment between Daniel and Johnny can close out the series. While that's a very rough idea, I do like it as a way of finishing out the final push of the show. You know, this show has to go out with the biggest, most epic scale, and that is certainly one way to do it. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.